Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking all things numbers. I am going to be talking about how much we made in our first year running a backyard cut flower farm and market stall. This video has definitely been a long time coming. I have been really excited to just sit down and chat with you about our finances basically, and how much we actually made in our first year running this backyard cut flower farm. If you're new here, my name is Robin and I live here on the south coast of New South Wales, Australia with my partner and our 2 cats, and I run a backyard flower farm. The property is roughly about half an acre, but we grow on less than about half of that for the purpose of selling flowers. The main growing area is down the back of the property, and that's where I have about 5 8-meter long beds and about 8 4-meter long beds. These are roughly about 0.8 meters wide, so that kind of gives you an indication on my main growing space, I suppose. I also have a cottage garden closer to the house and a few garden beds throughout the property where I never get anywhere close to like a full bucket of flowers, but it does help to supplement the stem numbers when I am low in flowers. There's also a few established shrubs and trees on the property, and these have been really valuable to harvest for greens and foliage for the bouquets. And I just wanted to kind of preface with this information to show that I'm not starting from like a bare piece of land, nor is my soil anywhere near like poor or nutrient deficient at all. I also just wanted to say that the numbers that I'm going to be talking about, they really reflect what a more like a side hustle would look like, I suppose, for a flower farm. For the majority of the growing year, so this is all 2023 that we're going to be talking about, I had 2 other jobs that I was working, so I was never doing this full time. I am now currently doing this full time, and I've worked kind of my way up to it along with YouTube and a lot of other ways of generating an income. I was never really working like more than 1 to 2 days a week on the flowers. So, I mean, it is a lot of time that I spent growing all of the flowers and getting this started, but this whole video is to do more with a side hustle flower farm that I would then like to turn into a full-time business, which is the plan for this year. I also wanted to say I am in a very privileged position. I'm very able, and it's safe for me to grow flowers in this environment. And I have a really supportive partner who has helped out with the flower farm and the business, particularly with the weaknesses that I have. He has a lot of strengths in terms of just IT and finances, and also can just physically help around the farm as well. So I just wanted to mention that as well. He also has a pretty stable income. So I just wanted to say, like, the risks of undertaking this business and starting it up were really low. And I wanted to mention these things just because lately I've been seeing a lot of videos about flower farming and how you can be profitable and earning like tens of thousands of dollars from a small piece of land. And while I absolutely think that can be done over years of work and dedication to growing a business, I really wanted this video to reflect what a side hustle can look like and the financial outcome of that after 1 year. So now that that is out of the way, I'm going to get right into it about what we made in 2023. I have my laptop down here, so I am going to be referring to this with all of my notes, but over the top of the screen, I am going to be overlaying just some graphs and numbers so that you can see these statistics a little bit better. So in 2023, our first year running this business, we brought in terms of sales, we brought in $8,602.14, which is a pretty nice number for our first year flower farming. I'm going to get into expenses and talk about net profit in a little bit, because this 8,000 number isn't exactly what we made, because I spent a considerable amount of money this year to get this business off the ground and to keep it running. Now, YouTube also is a really big part of my business structure, I suppose. I spent a whole year making videos on how to start a flower farm and how to grow flowers and other different plants. So I do add that to my total for the business of what I made. I'm going to let you know in this video how much YouTube paid me last year, because I know a lot of you are very interested in YouTube and the potential earnings that you can get from making videos. This is where it's going to get a little confusing though, because I'm not actually going to include those YouTube statistics in all of the graphs and the figures in this video. I'm just going to be talking about the farming and the business side of things. I feel like that is going to best reflect what the audience would like to watch. But if you do want me to talk more about YouTube and YouTube earnings, then I can do that and discuss that in another video as well. So just for the purposes of this video and talking about business and being completely transparent, I will let you know that YouTube paid me a total of $3,384.51 last year in 2023. I also receive a little extra income through either affiliates or Patreon, and that total to be $162.49. So roughly the business made a total of $12,113.14, and that is gross as well. That is not net profit, that is just how much we brought in. For the rest of the video, I'm going to be taking that YouTube statistic out of the 12,000 and just focusing on that $8,600 that we earned from the business. And I'm going to be talking about the expenses to do with that and how much money I actually spent with the business. But I did want to include the overall YouTube earnings because I know a lot of people are interested in starting a YouTube channel, and for what I have in terms of subscribers and watch time and views and everything like that, you can expect around $250 to $400 a month from Google AdSense. So that is the money that you can receive from when people watch advertisements, or people can send you like little thanks in terms of monetary thanks on YouTube. That's about how much I am earning per month. That has definitely gone up over the year, and I am so thankful for everyone who watches all of these videos and interacts. It means so much, and obviously does help me out financially as well, which helps directly go straight back into the business and helps me make more videos as well. So now we're going to go back to that $8,602.14 that we made from the flower business. Firstly, I'm going to talk about where this money actually came from in terms of the sales and where those sales were generated. So I will add a little table here of a breakdown on where this income actually came from. And you can see here that the bulk of this actually came from markets, which was around $6,100 worth of sales. Now, markets is the route that I personally wanted to go down when selling flowers. I really love markets. I love interacting with people, even though I am very introverted. I do love markets and I love the setup. I love displaying everything and I really love the whole process. So it's personally what I wanted to do with my business. And there's many other ways to be selling flowers that I've discussed in other videos. This is just what I personally wanted to do. With markets, I not only sold flowers, but I sold leftover seedlings that didn't go into the flower farm. I could sell dried flowers and other kind of botanical gifts like bath salts, bath bombs, and other things that I can make here at home that I can then sell at my market stall. But another avenue that I went down was selling in store, and I made about $1,479 from that. So almost $1,500 from selling in store, and this was a really great avenue to make some sales last year. I also ended up doing some online sales and special order sales. The special order sales that you'll see in this graph, they're actually from Instagram, and that was when I didn't have my online store already set up. So those were very similar and kind of gives an indication on just the orders that I was receiving from people. And then with the business, I also did a little bit of consulting here and there, and that was $125. And that was consulting about how to grow flowers, flowers and veggies and other plants and how to have a garden basically. In terms of what was actually sold, I'll include a table here, and this is going to show from that total what items were actually sold at those different outlets where I was making the sales. So you can see here the largest was flowers. I am a flower farm, so I would naturally think that is going to be the case. And that brought in about $5,328, and majority of that was all grown, well, all of it was grown in my backyard, and majority of that was started from seed as well. So this number is probably one of the most interesting ones from the video and informative, I suppose, because it can show how much you can actually make from a backyard in terms of just flowers that were grown and produced here in my backyard. The next category that you'll see here is veggies, and this is coming from some of the locally sourced organic vegetables that I was selling at my market stand. So this is something you obviously don't need to do. I am just incredibly passionate about local food, and I really wanted to bring some more organic, fresh food to the market that I was at. So I only do this for pretty much just one of my markets, where I go pick up some vegetables and I purchase them at more of like a wholesale price, and then I sell those at a retail price at the market stall. So I really don't make a lot from this in the end. It does say here that I made just over $1,200, but when I go into the expenses, you'll see that it's not actually a lot. This is just something that I purely love doing. I love setting up all of the veggies. I have a really great relationship with some of the local farmers, and is something that I just really like to do. So it's not a necessity, but it is something that contributed to my overall income for the business, so I did want to include that in here. We also made some sales in botanical gifts, which made up about 14% of sales. I realized I got the number wrong before with the veggies. This one is the just over $1,200 that we made from bath salts, bath bombs, and also some oracle cards and books that I had purchased that I sell at the markets, and some Christmas ornaments as well. And we also made about $350 worth of plants. And I say made, this is just what we brought in again. $350 were just from the plants and extra flower seedlings or extra herb seedlings that I have that I propagated here. It really didn't take a lot of effort to do so. And then I sold them at the market stalls. And essentially what this has done is really help to pay for my seed raising mix to start all of the flowers for the flower farm. It was a really great, easy add-on product that I could provide, and is just a good amount of money to bring in as cash for the business to pay for other things like seed raising mix for the flowers. And then you can also see the $125 from consulting that was on that table as well. So this is kind of like a graph of the percentage wise, I suppose. I love a good pie graph, love a good graph. So wanted to include that so you could visually see flowers obviously made up the most, just over 60%. And I think that's really great in my opinion, because it's what I wanted and what I expected. All the rest of the other percentages were add-on products that helped to contribute to my overall income. They weren't the largest part, but every little bit counts when you're doing a small business. I'll move over a bit so you kind of see this graph a little bit better, but this graph here shows the monthly sales throughout the year. So from month to month, this is what we made. You'll see it doesn't start until February, and that's because that's when we started selling flowers. And I'm really happy to see the increase of each month over the year. It's a trend that I would like to continue to see, and is really great for a small business in our first year. It was honestly a really hard year for me last year. I actually got pretty sick around April and May and couldn't really do any physical labor for 1 to 2 months or so. So I'm honestly beyond happy to just see the trajectory of this graph, to see that things were increasing despite everything that happened in my personal life last year. The main increases that you can see here occurred from doing more markets in November and December. And around September, you can kind of see a spike here. This is when I had an abundance of stock flower and anemones that were flowering. They were so beautiful, and I really pushed to sell a lot here. So I'm glad to kind of see a little bit of a spike there, because I remember I did have a lot of flowers around that time. And this is, definitely a trend in a graph that I would like to see replicated this year. I'm projecting it might be a little bit more seasonal this year, as we have really like high production right now, and that's probably going to diminish as we get into the colder months. But overall, this was a really nice graph to see, and I am really, really happy with it. So although we made just over $8,600 in terms of sales, I also spent a lot of money this year to keep the business going. So I wanted to talk about expenses, and then how much they were, and then what we actually made net overall. So we made a good chunk of money in terms of what we brought in, but I also spent, and I'll put a table up here, $7,829.71 to make this whole thing happen. So I'll do the math for you on the screen, but that puts our net profit at around $772.43, which is technically how much I made in my first year flower farming, not counting YouTube or anything like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about expenses and what actually I spend to get to that number, because it is quite high, and I want to talk through the categories so you can get a rough indication of what I spent and why I spent that much. So I've broken this down into 5 categories, and I want to just say, like, I'm not an accountant. I don't really know all of the lingo. I'm slowly learning, so I'm definitely getting things wrong, and I have tried to categorize things that worked for my mind and for tax purposes as well. This year I'm doing things a little differently, and I have much better categories, but at the time of when I was putting all this together, these are the categories that I put together in terms of my general expenses, and then I can use this for tax purposes as well. So general expenses were the highest, and that includes all of the market setup, the tables, packing supplies for the online store, my thermal printer, storage, stationery, and all of the general setup. These were a lot of the operating costs, and that came to around $2,700. Right, my camera died, so I had to set that back up again. But anyway, the highest in this category, there was the thermal printer. I have a Munbin thermal printer. This was an investment, and I used this to print all of my labels for my bouquets. It's really great because I don't have to pay for ink, and it's really reliable. And I've also been using this to print all of my shipping labels, and also labels for some of the seed packets that I'm going to be selling shortly. This was around $342. I also bought like a storage shelving unit, which was $313. Mailing materials, $272, and I spent a lot on fillable baubles for Christmas ornaments. That was $225. So that was an indication of like some of the high ticket items that I paid for. Do you need these to start a business and start growing flowers? Absolutely not, but it's something that I wanted to do because I wanted to grow this business. I know it's something I really want to do, and I did want to put in these investments. Closely second was the category of flowers, and this is what I needed to physically grow the flowers. This included both operational and cost of goods sold expenses, which in hindsight I would like to separate those two expenses to make it a little bit more easy for me to just understand what I'm spending versus how much I'm bringing in. But this was a total of $2,336.28. I should have just not done the cents for this video because that's a lot of numbers to say. But some of the highest ones of these were mulch and like bulk soil deliveries at $772. I also spent about, and I think this was a little bit of a conservative number, but I spent about $698 on seeds and bulbs and plants. So that can definitely be minimized, and I will be minimizing that this year. I really don't expect to be paying that much money for actually growing the flowers this year. I also spent some money on making the botanical gifts and the bath salts. I've got this listed as bath salts. This category includes things like all of the jars, the Epsom salts, labels. Also, I have included in here that this includes the oracle cards and the books that I bought to then sell in my store. So this made up a total of 15% of my expenses. The other category for what I paid for was the veggies, so I spent a total of $1,077 on that. I made about $500 worth in profit. So in terms of when I buy the veggies at wholesale and then I sell them, I made about $500 from that, from actually selling all of the veggies, which isn't a lot considering the time and the effort that I go to actually selling these. But again, it's something that I just like doing, and I like doing it for one of the markets that I do, so I'm going to continue to do that. And then the last one of categories was fees, and this included like market fees, Square fees, and Shopify, and that was around $548. So after all of those expenses, I only ended up with $772.43. This is just the expenses and net profit from 2023. In 2022, I was technically still putting money into the flower farm, but I haven't tracked that. That's just past year's tax return. But I would expect if you were, starting from scratch with all of the expenses that I had, I'd probably expect another at least $2,000 on top of this, but they weren't tracked. They were from the previous year when I wasn't really putting money into the business. I was just, it was a little bit of money here and there, and all of that money was actually coming from YouTube at the time. So I didn't really invest a lot of my own personal money. It was just cash flowed throughout the whole time so that I didn't have to take a risk and take out any loans or anything like that. It was all just what I was bringing in from the business as to what I was putting back into the business. This is a really important thing because honestly, the more you invest, the more you can gross over time. But it is still difficult in the early years to be profitable and to be earning a lot of profit from your business. So just wanted to say that there's multiple different ways you can grow your business, whether you have the money and time and the risk factor. I personally just wanted to do this all really low risk, so this is just my experience of it. But that being said, if you honestly do have really ideal growing conditions, have an established garden, you know exactly how to grow all of the flowers, and you know exactly where you're going to sell all of your flowers and the community that you're going to sell to, I definitely think that you can be profitable and make quite a little bit of money in your first year. But it does take a lot of time and effort and learning, and that's what I've been doing, and I've been bringing you guys along with the journey because I definitely don't know everything and hardly nothing about growing businesses. So it's been really interesting to do this more at a slow pace with a very low risk, rather than investing and buying all of this machinery to make it happen. I've done it very slowly. So yeah, this is an example of what you can get when you grow a business slowly. I also wanted to mention before this video ends that although this video is about the finances and money, there's honestly many more reasons why you might want to pursue flower farming and have a flower farm. Often it can just be a hobby where you don't even have to register it as a business if you don't intend on making an income, and it's something that you just like to do on the side. There's so many different physical and mental health benefits from gardening, rather than just getting the benefits from a profit and from monetary benefits. But I know a lot of you were interested in the financial side of things, so that's why I thought I would put this video together for you all. So I would love to know your thoughts about these numbers, and I'll probably be doing a follow-up or a few follow-up videos of this in future. But if you are also in your first year or have just completed your first year flower farming, I would love to know how you went. You don't have to disclose financial things at all, but any lessons that you might have learned if you're currently in your first year, or if you are way down the line and you are more experienced with your backyard flower farm or just large scale flower farm, I would love to know, and it would be awesome to share some of your lessons in the comment section down below. This is not something that I have learned all by myself. I have done so much research and I've watched so many of these other types of videos. So if you're also interested in this kind of content, I'm going to leave some of my favorite flower farming YouTubers in the description box, and I'll leave links to their videos of how much they made in their first year flower farming, or just where they're at in terms of their flower farm, because there are a lot more experienced YouTubers and flower farmers out there that I know you can learn from. So I'll include some of my favorite videos that I found helpful, and hopefully they can be helpful for you as well. I don't want this video to be discouraging to any of you, because technically I didn't really make a lot of money, but I do have other forms of making income, so I just want to preface that. But I did want this to reflect what this can look like as a side hustle, and it'll be super interesting to do a same video like this next year, because I am planning on putting a lot more effort and time and actually growing this into more of like a full-time income next year. And we are definitely on track to kind of just triple the amount that we were earning in the first few months of selling last year compared to this year. So I'm really excited to see what we can do with the business, and of course I will be very transparent on here. Any questions that you might have, I'm more than happy to answer. I want to be as transparent as possible. I really think there's a lot of space for that on YouTube, and I think we can learn a lot more from each other. Annie is meowing and wanting attention, so I better head off soon. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of space for transparency online, and I just think there's a lot of taboo around money and finances. And of course, I'm not going to disclose absolutely everything, but in terms of the business, I would really like to share this information for you, and have this as kind of like an informative space if you're thinking of doing something similar. So if you did like this video, I would love it if you could give this video a like and subscribe for lots more content. Any kind of interaction that you have with my videos really does help me out, helps me get onto that magical YouTube algorithm, and just helps me so much to make these videos and continue to make more content for you all. If you would like to support me further, you can buy me a coffee. I'll have my little coffee link down below. I need a lot of coffee and teas to get through editing and filming all of these videos. And I do have a Patreon if you would like to further support me and see extra content over there. Or I do have my website, which is thepatchandbloom.com.au, where you can purchase flowers if you're local to my area, or you can purchase botanical gifts if you're in Australia. Hoping to make that an international thing someday, but I need to figure that out. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Annie has now joined me to say that she needs attention, so I better head off. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and until my next one, happy gardening everyone. Bye.